Hey, what's going on, guys? We've got the Gunbarrel Striker Pack here, available in Bandai's kind of newly revamped option parts set line. This is option parts set for Gunpla number 14, which is the Gunbarrel here, but it can be used either on its own, as its own ship, or as the Gunbarrel Striker Pack for the Strike Gundam. You can use this with either the HG Strike Gundam or the entry grade Strike Gundam, which is very cool. And in this video, we're going to be going over this set, as well as, because I already had recorded the unboxing video for these two other sets and I was planning on doing a review for them, I thought might as well do kind of all three sets in one video, because here I've got option parts set 1 and 2, which is going to be of the Aile Strike Pack here and of the Sword and Launcher Strike Packs kind of respectively. So we'll do it as a kind of Striker Pack super episode here for today. So let's go ahead and get into it with all three of these. So checking out the box and packaging here before we get into the contents here on set 01, you can see the Strike Gundam there with the Aile Pack. It also comes with the bazooka, the Grand Slam sword, and some other accessories in there. For the second set here, like I said, this is for the Launcher Striker and Sword Striker, so we've got all the parts basically for those sets. And on the sides of the box, going to be very similar here, showing different images of the Strike Gundam with some of that equipment. Going around to the other side, again, it's different artwork there as well. So really nice that, just kind of nice that when they put opposite ends of the box with different artworks, so you can swap it to maybe however you might prefer. And then on the bottom of the box here shows once again all of the contents, and then how those parts are going to look in use with the Strike Gundam there. And then there's a little bit more about the compatibility with these parts, taking advantage of the 3mm hardpoint system as well as C-clips there. I know people have mixed opinions on those, but these parts are going to be able to utilize those. So that means that these should work pretty well with 30 minutes missions stuff as well. Obviously here on the other side, once again, just some more information there about the sets. And that's pretty much it. So we'll pop open the box here for set 1 first, just one bag of runners. And our instruction manual here, which is just going to have our parts list on the front. On the back side, just again, a little bit about how this is compatible with the entry grade Strike Gundam. But again, as far as I know, these parts are all compatible with the HG as well. Obviously the HG comes with the Aile Strike Pack, so you wouldn't need this for the HG, but it does have some additional weapons and things that are not included with the HG Strike Gundam that you could absolutely use with that as well. And this also has parts there for the battery packs there at the back if you wanted to make a perfect Strike Gundam. So some cool stuff there. And it looks like we've got a total of 4 runners included with this one, which actually makes this quite a lot of parts to be included with just an option set here, and a few different colors. As you can see here on runner C3, we've got the parts for the beam rifle and the Grand Slam sword. On runner C1 here, we've got parts for the bazooka. They're also in gray. And then on runners OA and OB are all the parts here for connection parts and parts for the Aile Strike backpack. Runner OB is all there in black. And then runner OA is here with white, yellow, red, and then a clear pink up there for the beam saber parts as well. So really nice to have those. These are gonna make a really nice addition to the entry grade kit. But here we also got our contents for the Sword and Striker packs. This one, once again, a single bag of runners. Seems like maybe less parts in general, but maybe more colors included with this one. So here's, once again, our parts list. On the back side, how these parts are going to work with the Gundam, and all of our assembly instructions inside here, some of which is in color. The rest on the inside is going to be all there in black and white, and there's kind of, again, how you can combine everything to make the perfect Strike Gundam here. And with this set, we do have a malleable black wire here. It's about 17 centimeters in length. This is what we can use for the little grappling hook there. That's a part of the Sword Striker pack, so that's pretty cool. Got runner OC, which is going to be some softer plastic clear pink parts here for the beam effect parts. And then once again, these runners are labeled OA and OB. So runner OA has some yellow and red up there at the top, gray at the bottom, green throughout the center. And then for the sword pack, we've got white, light blue, regular blue, and then gray over here. So kind of interesting how those are separated to one runner each, essentially. But that's it for the parts. Let's go ahead and get all this stuff built up and see how this looks on the kit. All right, so here's everything for set 1, basically our Aile Striker pack, and then all of our weapons and a few different connection part options that we have here. Now, first off, just on the Aile Striker pack, I want to show you guys the comparison between this set and then what comes with the HG kit. With the HG kit, It looks almost exactly the same. You'll notice it has the separate red part for the vents there in the front. The beam saber handles are on movable joints there. The wings are movable. You have a separate yellow part for the vents on the side. The only real major difference is if you look up close here on the wings. On this set, the red part is a separate red piece. On the HG kit, it's actually a sticker that you have to put over that, whereas almost everything else is almost exactly the same here. So we have improved color separation here for this version, but as far as the functionality, again, it's going to be basically the same. The wings can move up and down there. These parts are just on ball joints, so you can kind of adjust the angle of these like booster pods there at the back, move them up and down. And then, as I said, the beam saber handles can move up and down there. And then of course we can remove those. And we do have our beam saber effect parts. So if you had the entry grade kit, which would be this guy right here, the entry grade only comes with the beam rifle and the shield. So now you have beam sabers as well as the Aile Striker pack, of course. Then for our other included weapons, here we've got the Grand Slam sword, all molded in gray. The handle will flip up like that. Proportionally, just compared to the Gundam, of course, as it's kind of meant to be, it is rather long there, so pretty good size. And when not in use, there's not really anywhere that you can store it necessarily on the kit, but you could certainly make just a simple connection piece for that. And then for our included beam rifle here, I'm not sure, because I'm not enough of a Seed fan to be able to recognize if this is supposed to be a beam rifle from a different mobile suit or if this is a completely original design. I'm not entirely certain about that, but there is going to be a seam line on here. And then again, compared with the entry grade, this is the Strikes beam rifle from the entry grade that doesn't have a movable handle or anything, but just to give you guys an idea of just kind of how it differs in terms of the shape and the design of that, but they're both going to work the same way and that they both just slot down directly into the hand. And lastly then, for like the main components of this set, we've got the bazooka. I love the design of this bazooka. It's really cool. You do have a movable handle here at the front for the secondary handle. The main handle will also move up and down, so when this is in hand, you'll be able to get it up over the shoulder without any issue, which is very nice. You will of course have some seam lines on this as well, kind of going all the way down pretty much the entirety, as well as through these like magazine parts here at the end. Just the top and bottom ones, not the side ones, as those are just kind of molded together. So it will take a little bit of seam line removal work, but again, I do really love the design of this. That's really cool. And then for this option connection piece, basically here, it's meant to plug into the back of the Strike with this single peg, but if you wanted to plug this onto a different Gundam, you can actually remove that piece from there. And then we've got this option piece here with the 2-peg connection system, which a lot of other HG kits use. So if you wanted to use this on a different kit, you can swap that just very simply and easily. We got another couple of option parts here that are not used for this set, but they're included to be used together with the Sword Striker, or the Sword Striker pack and the Launcher Striker pack that is going to be in the set too, as well as these set of like the E-cap sort of, they're called something different in Gundam Seed, I forget, but these, which in theory you can use with this set. I think they're just meant to be for like the Perfect Strike, whatever, but they will slot into the bottom of the Aile Strike pack just as they're supposed to there, so you absolutely can use those with this set. And I suppose that is one other key difference worth pointing out, how with this set you can actually slot those in on the bottom. The connection is a little bit different here for the HG. I think the HG is also made to be compatible with those parts that are available in a different set, but anyway, the parts that are included with this set will not work with the HG Aile Strike backpack. So a really nice set for this one, definitely as an add-on set for the entry grade Strike Gundam, because the entry grade Strike is great, but you know, it only comes with the basic shield and beam rifle. So this not only gives you the addition of the Aile Strike pack to basically kind of complete the transformation into the Aile Strike Gundam, and then also has the beam saber effect parts in there, which is really nice, as well as the optional weapons. You could use like the extra Grand Slam sword or the bazooka or the alternate rifle with like your HG Aile Strike, for example. That said, one worthwhile comparison to make would be comparing the HG Aile Strike kit like as a full kit versus the entry grade Strike Gundam plus this option set. I think this is actually kind of the better option. The HG kit is really nice and I think has like kind of a better joint system. Most of the kit is very, very similar, but actually the entry grade has a little bit better color separation and look on the head in particular. And then with this option set paired with the entry grade, it obviously gives you more weapon options in there as well. So it's actually kind of a better deal kind of overall for a similar price. comparing those two options. All right, so for the second set here, we're going to start off with just the launcher parts, as basically we have the shoulder piece and the backpack piece, which has the large cannon. So for the shoulder part, it's a really nice color separation on these parts too, by the way. We're just gonna have to remove this like front and back. This is just going to fit around our existing Strike's shoulder armor here, and this will fit the same way on either the HG or the entry grade, but again, still I'm just using the entry grade here for demonstration. There we go, it just fits onto the front of there like that. Like I said, it looks really nice. And then for the cannon, this is going to connect onto the backpack via this single peg, but you have an alternate version of that part here that again will give you the 2 pegs here, actually like that. So if you do want to use this with a different kit that uses a 2-peg system there on the back, you can do that, but this just has this mechanical arm here with a number of points of articulation in that. For the actual cannon itself, you have the primary handle here on this side and then the secondary handle here, but that actually can slide in between this piece here. So if you wanted this secondary handle here on this side, like so, it slides that way. Alternatively, you can use this handle here on this side. So just kind of depending on the grip that you want to use for that, you can choose how you want to use that handle. And again, some really nice color separation here for this. For being such a simple set, I think this ends up looking really nice straight out of the box. You are still going to have some nasty seam lines kind of all throughout the length of that there. But once you've got that connection arm situated, it just fits into the hand there pretty simply, and then yeah, you can just pop that handle out to the side in order to get our two-handed grip on there like so. I do kind of find that there's a peg on the bottom side of this connection arm there. You can see that big square peg. It does kind of get in the way, so if you're planning on posing it like this, I would maybe consider just cutting that off. Obviously, the limitations of the kit and just the weapon, trying to do a pose like this, you aren't going to have a ton of options in terms of like how you can pose a really large weapon here like this if you're wanting to do a two-handed grip on it. So that said, I mean, I think it does look pretty cool. And then one other thing I guess I should mention here, this little fin over here on the side will also move up and down there on that shoulder armor there. Then for the sword striker pack, it's going to be kind of similar. Basically, we have our shoulder piece here, the backpack piece, which is just going to be holding our massive sword, and then this part, which is actually going to fit there onto the side of the arm as well. So again, these couple of shoulder armor pieces will fit around our strike shoulder armor first like that, and this middle section with the piping then kind of fits in between there, and then this part is going to plug into there like so, but obviously this part can also be removed from there. And then we've got this effect part here for that will fit into there, and then this can just be held in the hand as like a beam sword or like a throwing weapon too. You can see it throwing that, so that's pretty cool part there. Again, a little bit of a seam on that, otherwise that just fits into the shoulder there. On the forearm here, this part, so you have this connection piece here, which is just meant to be able to plug this onto the forearm of a different kit. If it's a kit that already has a hard point here on the side of the arm, like the ARC 782 or something, then you would use this connection piece there for that. But because the strike has this connection point here on the back of the arm, we have a different connection piece for connecting that onto there first, and then this will fit directly onto the side then from there. Now this, of course, is our claw weapon that will open up like that, and then you can also have this shooting off from there using that included wire piece. This has a part that will plug into the base at the arm, and then on the other end of the wire you can plug in the claw and then have that kind of shooting off from the forearm there like that. And the wire is pretty long here, as you can see, but even at the full length without cutting this down to a shorter length, it is able to hold that up. It is going to be kind of bouncy there like that. You could cut this wire down to a shorter length if you want, otherwise just kind of have it looking like it's kind of like uncoiling, something like that, as it's shooting out something. You can mess around with that. And then lastly, the backpack part here is going to work the same way. You can attach this onto a different kit if you need. You have that adapter piece for that, but this is just going to fit very simply right back here onto the back. And then the sword is just connected via this hole into this peg here on the backpack. Nothing fancy there with that, but we do have our effect parts here for the sword as well. One smaller effect part will fit into the back end there like that, and then for the actual sword blade, we have this longer part here that will plug in at the front and the back here. There we go, just like that for our sword effect. Now you will have a couple of safety flags on a number of these different parts here, like you can see here at the tip of the sword, so I would recommend just cutting off that little safety flag there and filing that down, sharpening that down a bit. This is just going to fit in the hand, and with that nice long handle, you should be able to get a nice two-handed grip on that for sure. And then lastly, we do have this part here, and now this is the part that is going to be used in combination with this part here from set 1. So with set 1, this part is going to fit over here on this side like that, and that's going to hold the sword. And then from the Aile striker backpack here, you're going to remove this piece out the middle that will plug onto the top of here like that. The cannon from the launcher set along with this connection arm then is going to fit over here onto the other side, and then from there we can then slot this piece back into the Aile striker pack here. You're going to have everything positioned just quite right, and the sword here will fit into the other side. The energy packs, like we saw before, will fit up underneath, and this little white part here goes on the top of the backpack there like that. And there we go. Now we've created our perfect striker pack that can be connected onto the backpack, and then the shoulder armor parts are connected onto the shoulders, and you've got your perfect strike. So there you have it, guys. Definitely really cool to be able to make the perfect strike here with the combination of these two sets. I don't unfortunately have the HG Perfect Strike Gundam, which you can get as a complete HG set. That said, I have a feeling this is just going to be much better just because the entry grade kit of the Strike Gundam is going to be better than the Strike Gundam, which is included in that version of the Perfect Strike, the HG, the early HG. So it's a better base kit. And then for all of like the striker packs and everything too, the color separation on this one, on this combination of sets here, set 2 in particular that we're talking about at the moment, but obviously it goes for the set 1 parts as well. Just the color separation and the details much better. You don't have to rely on stickers for any of the separate colors that you see here with the option sets, so that's awesome. The color separation on these parts is really quite nice. And it's true, you will be adding up the cost by having like the entry grade strike plus option set 1 plus option set 2, but I mean for all that to come out to about 30 bucks. And then plus, like I said, you have those extra option weapons from set 1 that, you know, this is, if you're making the perfect strike, you're going to be all loaded up. You probably won't be able to put everything all onto one kit with the bazooka and the Grand Slam sword, as well as everything here from set 2. So you'll have plenty of stuff to be able to use on more than just the one kit. So it would probably be a good idea to just either get 2 of the entry grade strike kits so you can just separate them, or just kind of split the parts up however you might like. But the parts will look awesome and work super well. But let's go ahead and move on then to the Gunbarrel striker set. Right, so as for the Gunbarrel striker set here on the front, as I said before, you can see how you can use this as just the gun barrel on its own like that. Otherwise, it's going to be able to attach onto the back of the Strike Gundam, and here you can just kind of get a look at everything that's going to be included. And once again, this is in a pretty thin box here, as you can see, number 14 in this lineup. Here again, on this side of the box, you can see what's all going to be included here and kind of some gimmicks of this. You can upgrade your unit with option parts. Looks like there's probably not going to be like an opening gimmick, but just sort of like a parts forming thing, how you can have that looking like the barrels in the gun barrels are actually like opened up. And here you can see we have different adapter parts for using this with different kits for the backpacks. That's pretty cool. So you can see a couple of examples of that there. And then how this is just going to be using the 3mm joint system for attaching everything, something that we've seen Bandai utilizing quite a lot, especially with the 30 minutes missions line there, of course. Over here on the other side, just kind of showing some different combinations that we can make with some of the other option sets. And inside here, we can expect just a couple of runners, right? But some orange, looks like gray and white basically. And our instructions are gonna have the parts list here on the front. There is a color guide down here as well. And then as you can see, the first part of the instructions is going to all be in color here for most of the assembly of the actual gun barrel, till we get here over onto the other side. And then we're gonna have a section just kind of how to use this with different kits in different ways, things like that. So you can use like the option handle part there on that Gatling gun part of that to have this as like a handheld weapon. So pretty cool stuff. And for our 3 runners here, it looks like we've got runner OA1 is gonna have some gray across the top there, orange throughout the middle, some white down here at the bottom, and one clear green part there. Where OA2 is gonna be a copy of this section of the runner right there in the middle. And then OB is gonna be a few more white parts here on this separate runner, and that's it. All right, let's check it out. All right, then here it is all built up and put together. The little green detail detail there for the cockpit looks really nice, and just the design overall, you got some really nice detail in and around on here. If you wanted to plug this onto an action base, you could either remove the Gatling gun from the bottom, then you've got a hard point right underneath there. Otherwise, any one of these spots here at the back could be where you plug this onto an action base connector. Alternatively, you can use effect parts on there if you had some of like the builder's effect part sets, something like that. But otherwise, other than a couple of other extra little bits that you have included, this is pretty much it. It's very modular with like the Gatling gun being one part, the front part, and then each one of these containers. But if you do want to have these off of here and kind of like flying off around on their own, again, you could either use this hard point here on the bottom or the one at the back. We also have a couple of these adapter pieces in here that you could use into that to plug this onto like a different kit. If you wanted to plug this onto like the forearm of a kit, or like onto like a 30 minutes missions kit somewhere, or just for some kit bashing purposes. So you've got just a couple of simple pieces there for that. And then for when these are actually meant to be firing, to open up, you actually have to take off that front piece and kind of reattach it here on the top like that. Then we have this separate piece that you're then going to plug into there like so, to act as like kind of the extended gun barrel then of that, as it were. So that's how those are going to look like so. To attach this onto the back of the Gundam, just going to remove that off the bottom. This top part then just folds back, and then we're going to use this point right here, and then using this adapter piece here for the Strike Gundam, this is going to fit into there like that. But again, if you wanted to plug it onto the backpack of a kit that doesn't use a single backpack attachment point but uses a double backpack attachment peg system, then you can use this option part instead. It's also included. This is just going to plug right into the back of our Strike Gundam here, and again, just using the entry grade still for this. This fin here on the bottom actually will fold up and down kind of as needed. And one thing that you unfortunately don't have is anywhere on the bottom side of the backpack to plug in an action base when it's attached onto the back of the Gundam. I didn't mention this when talking about the Aile strike pack from set 1, but with using this piece here to make the perfect strike, this one does actually have a connection point here on the bottom to be able to plug this on to an action base, just because with everything attached onto there, that is going to make the backpack quite heavier than the main Gundam itself kind of. So it makes more sense to plug the action base into the bottom of the backpack rather than onto the mobile suit. But anyway, once we've got the backpack here on the Gundam, that weight is going to be a little bit of an issue, especially for the entry grade here, with it having a sort of weak joint there between the top and bottom half of the body. Just make sure that it's pushed down all the way, and that hopefully shouldn't be like sinking the torso backwards too much. But then for the Gatling gun that we removed off of there, you can then remove this connection piece here and replace that with this handle like this, and then turn that into a handheld Gatling gun for a weapon. So they're really cool. We also have a couple of other leftover bits in this set that are just not meant to be used, though you might want to hang on to those because they could come in handy for some other kind of kit bash or something. So yeah, this is another really cool set. Just compared to the first couple sets that we took a look at, this one is nice just because it's something that you can just use on its own, just as a ship, just with the Gunbarrel Striker just being able to be used as a solo unit, or you can have it attached onto your Gundam, or you could attach it to any other Gundam, or there's other different mobile suits that I know that this attaches onto rather well. I think the Gundam and then maybe the Dagger L are a couple of other HG kits that particularly go well with this set, I believe, if I remember correctly. But anyway, whether you've got the set on its own or attached onto the Gundam, it works really well, really cool. And then also the ability to have like the pods out flying around on their own. You will need multiple action bases for that if that was an effect that you wanted to try to recreate. And then of course the ability to make the Gatling gun as just a handheld weapon as well is pretty cool. So it not only gives you a new backpack, but a new weapon to use as well. So I gotta say, another really nice option set, and especially if you're a Gundam Seed fan, definitely one that you'll enjoy. This is one that I think this is the first time really that it had gotten a release as like a model kit in any kind of official manner. So it's cool that this unit did finally get released, and as an option set I think works really well. Let me know what you guys think of these 3 option sets down in the comment section below. Hope you enjoyed taking a look at these sets here in today's video. If you want to check them out for yourself, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. We've got lots of great option sets and Gunpla and more paints, tools, supplies, everything else there on the site, so check that out. And as always, yeah, if you did enjoy the video, you can leave a like. You can also make sure that you're subscribed if you're not yet subscribed already. And thank you guys so much for the support. I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Bye guys.